Welcome to another episode of Blacktop. I'm here. It's your boy LJ.
I'm Ade. I'm Morals.
So before we start, I want to take a second to acknowledge individuals that have lost their lives to police brutality. It is a very sad time in our country to have to deal with some of these disgusting acts of crimes that police officers have subjected Black individuals to. George Floyd, Michael Ramos, Breonna Taylor, Manuel Ellis is just a few to name in 2020. Now we have Jacob Blake that has basically been paralyzed and struggling for his life due to police brutality. It's a very strange and unwelcoming time for Black folks in America. If you get through this whole video, at the end, you'll be able to see all of the Black lives that were lost from 1968 to 2020. We really are pushing for change. I have just came from DC and the rally with Reverend Al Sharpton and the NAN, National Action Network. And it was extremely a successful event. A lot of people were in attendance. Beautiful event, no violence. And we just have to come to a place where we make changes, we create laws around preventing cops from being able to subject any individual to police brutality, especially the Black community. So the NFL, where are we at with them? How is it looking? What are we going to do? And what are they going to do really to help encourage the change of laws? We see that the Lions have canceled practice to protest the Jacob Blake shooting in Wisconsin. We saw like Trey Flowers, Taylor Decker, basically all stated that football is not important right now. And I think as we look at this, we clearly understand that football is not important when individuals like you are losing their lives for senseless acts because in the hands of police. The Tennessee Titans, Kenny Vaccaro, vowed not to discuss football with the media, and Green Bay Packers tackle Billy Turner is determined to find the best approach to produce the desired changes in society. Of course, a lot of people are asking or saying that, yes, it's the right time. Why didn't some of these players take this stance when Colin Kaepernick first brought it to our attention? But for the best part, or to look at it in the best way, it's never too late to acknowledge that we missed we missed something, and I think we clearly missed when Colin Kaepernick was trying to present these issues to the world, and we just, and not just we, but the players, his colleagues, overlooked it at the time. And I think some of them realized that it is a problem, but they didn't want to speak up. So I think the NFL has done I spoke this in previous episodes, the NFL has done a horrible job at ensuring that the players had comfort levels. The owners have done a horrible job in ensuring that the players are comfortable in bringing these issues up. Now we see the NFL actually encouraging teams to have these discussions. But will anything truly come out of these discussions is the question. Will we truly see team owners change their perspectives on how they treat Black people, the ideologies they have behind us, the theories they have behind us? Because, like any mankind, they are bad people anywhere you go. So when you specifically put it onto African Americans, it is a disgusting narrative to paint. And then when we have cops killing us when they should be protecting us, that just basically are putting our lives at jeopardy every time we walk out the house. And we're seeing players stand up for this. So we want to give credit to Terry Flowers, Duran, Harmon, Taylor Decker. If I said any of the names wrong, I'm good for saying the name wrong, so don't take it any type of way. But for them to even acknowledge that football is not important, I think that's I think that's them being able to say, look, you know what, I'm willing to put my voice out now, and I'm willing for the world to hear that we all need to stand up for this.
Yeah, I definitely think these NFL teams took a huge step forward by missing practices. Obviously they're not playing games right now, so they couldn't miss games. There have been talks about them considerably missing the first game of the week, but I doubt that's going to happen, especially when these games mean so much for their playoff contention, because there's only 16 games. So if they miss a game, that can, make or break, that shouldn't matter, but to obviously the NFL owners and GMs, that's going to matter to them. So I highly doubt that any team's going to miss a game this season, even though that'd be great to see. But the fact that they were able to cancel practices across the country was significant. It's progress. Years ago, you wouldn't even have GMs or owners that would even consider this. If they consider missing practice, they would, probably cut you off the team. And unfortunately for some of these players, they probably have to worry about, their contracts and stuff like that, because they're probably going to be, all this stuff that's happening right now. It puts these players at risk of losing their contracts and stuff like that, especially being blackballed and stuff like that, especially if they see a certain player who might not be a star player be on the front lines of these protests and stuff. They're going to see that person like, oh yeah, you want to stand up for something? Okay, we're going to make sure, you don't get signed to another team after we cut you or something like that. So for these players to take that risk and for these players to take a stand, at least in the NFL, is significant in its own, and there'll be progress, as time goes by.
There's a lot I have to say about this. First, I want to express my condolences to Jacob Blake and his family for the horrible events that happened this past week. I know he's paralyzed and still fighting for his life, and his dad went and visited him a couple of times. So we wishing him a speedy recovery. But NFL, this is just another trend that they're following, because they haven't been on the forefront of social justice ever. And this is not the players' fault, because the players are doing the best that they can with the platform that they have to speak and take action, and doing the best that they can within their power to try and facilitate positive change, so that another Jacob Blake, another George Floyd, another Michael Brown does not happen. But it really starts with the owners, and it starts with Commissioner Roger Goodell. You see, 4 years ago, Colin Kaepernick took a knee, and his result from him peacefully protesting. Now, he didn't go down and burn police stations down. He didn't go down and burn small businesses down. He just took a knee and said, "This is why I'm protesting. It has nothing to do with the flag. I am tired of people like me, African Americans, getting unlawfully killed by police officers." Roger Goodell, that slimy owner of the NFL, went on Emmanuel Ocho, who's a former NFL player. He has a show on YouTube called Uncomfortable Conversations with the Black Man. And Ocho asked him about a question with Colin Kaepernick's protest in 2016. And this is what Roger Goodell had to say. And I quote, "I did not know what was going on in the communities. I never got the chance to speak with Cap. I wish we had listened earlier." Really? You had 4 years to listen. You had 4 long years. And yet you still don't get it? You still have not visited these communities. Bro, 70% of your players are black. You haven't even called or even tried to reach out to Colin Kaepernick and his representatives, be like, "Hey, Cap, you know what? This happened 4 years ago." Even in 2016 when it happened. Why'd you sit down? Why'd you kneel? I just want to know what was your stand about it. Let's have an open dialogue conversation. What can I do as the head, the commissioner, the head honcho of the NFL, one of the most historic sports organizations in business of all time? Football owns Sundays, man. People schedule their events around Sunday night football. So you mean tell me you never even kind of gave him one phone call? Not just one? It just goes to show you that the owners, they still have a slave mentality. And I don't mean that they literally are, working their players to the ground, because obviously a lot of them are still getting paid millions and stuff like that, but some of them don't have guaranteed contracts compared to the NBA. But the differences between the NFL players, not the NFL players, but the NFL as a whole and the NBA, is that the NBA players, you see, they have more of a power than NFL players do. NFL players are trying to take that power, but the NFL owners won't give up that power. And I don't know, we got to give credit to them. A lot of them, decided to not participate in practices. But let's be real, that all started with the NBA, the Milwaukee Bucks.
Correct.
They decided to boycott Game 5 of the first round of the Eastern Conference against the Orlando Magic. And let's talk about the NBA, for example. Oh, you want to go ahead?
No. I'm listening.
Okay.
It triggers me, but it's disturbing because, like you touched on a point, they all like going against. They were all going against Colin Kaepernick because he was kneeling during the flag or the national anthem. And in all truth be told, people were saying, well, he's going against the flag. What does the flag truly represent? So when you truly look at it and you say, what does the flag represent? The flag represents the original 13 colonies, right? The stars represent the 50 states of the Union. The colors of the flag are symbolic as well, right? Red symbolizes the hardness of valor. White symbolizes purity and innocence, and blue represents vigilance, perseverance, and justice. Why wouldn't you kneel during that? None of these things are in favor of any Black American. That we built this country. We have like a tremendous amount of purchasing power. And you're telling me not to kneel when the flag represents everything that we don't get? I'm sorry. How do I, as much as we might love America, at the end of the day, the flag does not represent us as an African American. So when people go, well, the people fought for this flag and they fought for freedom. Yeah, but the flag doesn't represent purely freedom. The flag represents those key ideologies. And at the end of the day, Black African American men, we fight for those aspects every day, right? Just one thing is just justice. Like we don't get that at all, right? We go into a court and we're basically guilty until proven innocent. It's not innocent until proven guilty with us. So, it is a sense of, fight that we have when we go into these organizations, these institutions that's built and they're not structured for us to start with. It's disgusting because, as much as we look at the NFL, right, at the end of the day, people go through this in their everyday jobs. People that's well qualified, people with Harvard degrees, people with some of the best education. They're being overlooked for promotions. They're being subjected to discrimination practices, right? And then when they speak up, they're not supported. It goes back to my key point. NFL players, this is for every NFL player, you don't need Roger Goodell's okay to go and protest. But the main thing you have to realize is we're protesting, we're standing up for what you know is right for the people that look like you. You are going to lose some monetary value when it comes to that. That's just the key. You can't expect that a society that's built against us will support you when you start doing it. They're not. We're going to lose money. You're going to lose money. You might even lose playing like we see with Colin Kaepernick. But at the end of the day, if you do it for the right reasons, a lot of times those financial gains come right back. We've seen it with Colin Kaepernick. He got a lot of deals recently. And no offense, I think that opened up a lot of NFL players because now they're looking at it and saying, okay, well, you know what? This is not my end all be all. And if it does stop, there might be other prospects in the future that will not limit my family from being well. At the end of the day, I feel like, somebody like Turner stated, he was speaking to his teammates in a meeting this week, and he basically said not playing might not be effective. So this is for Turner because I don't, Billy Turner, I don't, Green Bay Packers. I don't think that is the right message to give any of your teammates. How you demonstrate is on you. How you protest is on you. I always tell people there's no right or wrong way of protesting because guess what? There's no right or wrong way of killing a Black man when you shoot him in the back or you shoot him when they're not resisting and you just shoot them and you kill them because you have a gun. There's no right way. So there's no right way to demonstrate a protest. So stop telling us how to do or release our anger. There is no right way because you don't do it to the cop. You don't do it to the white supremacists. You don't do it to any of them. But yet you do it to that one person that wants to protest or that small group of people that want to protest. And you say, no, that's not the right way. So one thing is you got to realize one thing, at the end of the day, if people don't want to play, then people should not play. Period. You should not play. If that is your objective, do not play. But, do not discourage a starter nor a bench player from speaking on these issues or do not discourage them from demonstrating or protesting in any manner that they feel comfortable doing. Because that might be the only way they feel comfortable. So when you hear people say those type of things, it is discouraging in the sense to hear that because they forget that what we're fighting for, there is no right way, right? We get fought many different ways. We have walked over bridges right before our time since the 1960s and the 1950s. We have had sit-ins where people were subjected to being spit on, hot coffee being thrown on people like Angelina Butler. And yet not once, have somebody just said, well, that's not right. What you're doing to these people are not really right. But they're quick to say that's not the right way to protest. I don't understand. It's an oxymoron, this type of setup. It's like, I love when people go, if you're a black person, don't resist. That's like telling a lady, don't wear a certain type of clothes
So you don't get
so you don't get raped. No, you don't do that. No, you don't. You're not supposed to be subjected to this type of behavior, regardless. Whether she walks down the street naked, does that give a man a right to touch her? No. Whether I walk down the street and I have a hoodie on, or whether I walk down the street and it looks like I might be up to mischief, does it give you the right to approach me and to take my life? No, it doesn't. So I think the NFL has to realize that. What matters, I think, for the most part, is that we need to support each other. Not that just the NBA, not just the NFL. These NFL players need to support each other. I don't think they have done that. I was seeing it now, but 4 years ago we didn't see it. And the shame part about it is Colin had basically said, "Well, I'm willing to give up everything that I worked for my whole life to get to," and I know he had to feel some way. A lot of players did not support him, at least publicly. I could care what you do behind the closed door, because sometimes I need that support publicly.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, I don't want to come at Jay-Z and I don't want to try to shun him, but I would say he has a partnership with the NFL for these type of situations, and I'd like him to be more vocal. Again, I'm not trying to attack him. I'm not trying to say shame on you, Jay-Z. I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying you partnered with these people for these type of situations, so I'd like to see you more vocal. So if he could just, maybe make at least I haven't even heard a public statement. I know he donates to certain groups and stuff like that behind closed doors, and I know he's more of a soft-spoken guy. I'd love him to be more vocal in times like these. Like, we need a figure like that. You're working with these guys. You see that the NFL is treating all these situations horribly. So I'd like for Jay-Z to speak up. Now, moving on to another different subject within the NFL, Bruce Arians, the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, saying that he doesn't understand the point of protests, and he says protests haven't gotten us anywhere. Well, I would suggest, what the hell do you want us to do then? Honestly, what would you want us to do? Because I'm tired of that question. I'm tired of those type of statements saying, stop protesting, you guys need to figure something else out. Okay, what do you suggest? Because people love saying that all the time, but they never have the answer for that question. What do you suggest doing when you say don't protest? Because this country, we literally fought for rights on. So what does that even mean? That doesn't even begin to make sense that, we shouldn't protest. Should we just stay at home and just meditate and just ignore people getting killed? Should I just meditate at my home and just ignore another black person getting killed by police? So I don't understand what that even means, Bruce Arians. And I know that probably hurts a lot of his players' feelings, especially because a lot of them are black. So for him to even say that, and I know for a fact there's owners, there's GMs, there's other coaches that feel it. Unfortunately, that feel the exact same way as Bruce Arians is. But to him to say that statement is just incredibly ridiculous, because all the rights that women, people with different sexual preferences, races, all of that, we had to fight, we had to protest, we had to stand up for all of those things. We didn't just stay at home, we didn't just stay peaceful and stuff. We had to fight for this. The Civil War, all these different wars and stuff, we had to fight and protest for these things. So for Bruce Arians to say something so ridiculous just infuriates me. And I'd love for those people who say things like that. What would you suggest? What would you suggest we do instead?
The sad part about it is I heard that the other day from a black individual, right? We shouldn't protest anymore, right? And the protests aren't getting us nowhere. These always aren't getting us nowhere. And I'll always go back. I said, so we didn't get the Civil Rights Act. So you didn't get a right to vote. So, and I told him this, I think, because he's a successful individual. And I said, just to be honest, all of those protests that Martin Luther King did, all of those demonstrations that Malcolm X did, right? All of those led to you being able to walk in the rooms that you walk into today, right? So let's be honest. As much as you might not, and let's just be honest, growth takes steps. I'm not saying that America or a person that is a white supremacist or a person that is racist should change overnight. That's definitely not what I'm saying, because I would hope that, I would pray that, but we know that change doesn't happen overnight, and we know that it's a progression, right? So my thing is this, that's what protesting and demonstration does. It gives you progression. You make changes slowly. You can't convince a population of 70% plus that, they went from having slaves to not having. Let's just play devil's advocate. You went to having slaves to not having slaves anymore. You you're trying to teach them respect and everything else and equality. That takes time. That takes generational change. Is it something that I would love to see overnight? Absolutely. Do I expect it? No. But do I expect civil rights, right? This is just a basic. Like, give me the civil rights. I don't even act for equal yet. Like, that's just want you to be civil. Like, I don't want to walk out my door and you have a gun and I don't and you want to attack me. Like, dude, let's be civil. And another thing I hate to hear is when people go, well, at the end of the day, black people kill black people. Yes, it happens. Yes, absolutely. Guess why? Statistically, I live around more African Americans than I do white. So I'm probably going to die by one of somebody that looks like me. If I'm subjected to that type of violence. Hopefully I don't. But, if I'm subjected or I'm dealing with some type of violence in that nature, what is the likelihood that I'm going to die from a white male compared to a black male if I live around 90% of black males?
There's white on white crime, there's Asian on Asian crime, there's all that stuff.
Yes.
All that is doesn't mean, and it's meaningless.
Exactly.
Cops on regular civilian crime, no, that's a serious issue because they're supposed to protect us. That is their job, okay? That is their job to protect us. So police on, especially black people crime, is what is most important. I hate when people try to deflect that. You bring up a good point, is because black crime doesn't exist because you're gonna kill people, unfortunately, in your area. What surrounds you, it's just how it is. In a perfect world, of course, we don't like people killing each other, but what we can't have is the people who are hired, get paid very good salaries, live in good neighborhoods, who most likely live outside of our neighborhoods that we live in, that we kill each other in. They get paid pretty much to kill us,
and we're paying them to do it. We're giving them our tax money to kill us.
So why do people deflect that issue and then try to put on, like, that doesn't even make sense?
And one thing I always tell people, if you're not, I'm sorry to say this is going to say very, very blunt. If you're not African American, stop trying to tell us how to deal with our own problems in our own community.
Yes.
That's insulting. To tell somebody, you never lived in my community, all you guys have to do is act civilized. All you guys have to do is stop this. Yeah. All the government had to do was not put drugs in our community. All the government had to do was not kill every Black Panther, leader that we had, or every type of leader that we had, and since Martin Luther King and everybody else. Well, that's all they had to do, and we probably would be okay right now. But you killed all of our leaders. You subjected our women, our males, to all type of drugs that you pumped into our communities, and then you tell me it's all right. This is all you have to do. This is the game plan. This is the game plan. But then you live in the suburban area that you create certain practices that basically do not support any individuals that don't look like you to live in. And if you do, you have a very small amount of those individuals. Just stop telling us how to deal with our internal problems when you guys won't even help us fix our external problems, like police, like laws that don't benefit us. That's what you want to, if you want to focus on helping us change those. And the individuals that are not African American that I do see at the protests and demonstrations, thank you. We appreciate that because this is not a problem that we created, and this is not a problem we can solve by ourselves. So when I see white people, or I see Asians, or I see Spanish people at these events, although some of these individuals are minorities just like us and could be subjected to the same type of behavior, it is something that you look at and you say, well, thank you, because you know what? You might not be subjected to the same type of behavior I'm subjected to on an everyday basis, or the same type of racism when I walk through the door and I have to go to an interview and the person looks at you different and goes, oh, I didn't, pretty much is saying from the facial expressions, I didn't think you're the person on this paper, or want to question each one of your abilities to perform because you're of a race, or they have this perception of you because of your race. So, we want to thank those people because at the end of the day, you guys are showing up, you guys are showing support for something that you know is wrong. Even though you might not even be being subjected to that type of behavior, or somebody actually asserting their power over you, like they try to do to Black males, especially, and Black women. It's very insulting to hear when people always have a game plan for African Americans, but yet, they don't want to go to a protest. They're not at a demonstration. They don't want to go talk to their friend that just did something racist. They don't want to stop their friend from doing something that is, that is just daunting and can put people in disbelief. I look at it with cops too. Cops, you guys there's no way you should allow your partner to do anything to somebody without stepping in at some point. We do see that the laws are clearly helping and supporting us. But, when you see these cops, sit around while they partner to do something like that, I'm sorry, lose your badge. At the end of the day, what's right is right. I'm not saying because you're black you have to step in. I'm not saying because you're white you have to step in. What I'm saying is what's right is what's right, and what's wrong is what's wrong. And you need to step in and make a change.
I want to ask a couple things to that. I did going back to your point, what you said about Bruce Arians, that he said protests don't work. My rebuttal to him would be like, you're right, Bruce Arians. Burning buildings and properties down to the ground works, because after what happened in Minnesota, we burned down the police precincts and police stations. Guess what? We had police reforms passed in the state of New York, in the state of Minnesota, and other states. I'm forgetting. Excuse me, my part. In other states, that that Governor Cuomo now banned chokeholds. So if a police officer uses an illegal chokehold on you, you have every right to sue him. That wasn't legal back then. Now it is. So I'll be like, you know what? You're right, Bruce Arians. Protesting doesn't work. Let's just go and destroy police property. That gets their voice, man. Because when you destroy people's property and you mean business, then they'll start listening to you. And Bruce Arians, again, he's white. He never had that happen to him. So say if he has, I don't know if he has any kids, say if he has a son or a daughter, and they get unlawfully killed, knock on wood, I'm not praying that, but if they get unlawfully killed by police officers, he'll be singing a different tune, and then he'll be on our side and see, this is why this is wrong, and this is why this should be advocated and rectified. Now, going back to what you guys said, that when people say, oh, well, black on black crimes is all time high. Okay, what about when a 17-year-old kills another 17-year-old? On the front page of the NY Post, that's not reported white on white crime. It's teenager kills high school student. I don't see white on white crimes in the headline. I don't see Asian on Asian crime, like you said, Ade. I don't see Spanish on Spanish crime. But when it's us, people of our skin color, who kill people, oh, well, look, black on black crime. You guys have to fix your own communities. Hold up. You guys put us in the communities in the first place. Because of you guys, we can't go up the ladder to be successful because of white supremacy. Oh, and like you said too, I love how the government, just say, well, look, we had a first black president. Racism is over. No, it's not. The accomplishment of one African American does not equal the accomplishment of others. Because see, it's lawful for them to put a tax on cigarettes, literally, that can kill you. But yet, they will send you to jail quick for a marijuana charge. And marijuana has shown to have medical benefits. But if you're smoking weed in the car, oh no, we got to send you to prison. That's unlawful. But if you're smoking a cigarette, oh, well, you know what? Here you go. We'll tax you on that. So,
especially when there's people making millions off of dispensaries.
Millions of dollars. And, it's funny how police, and I looked into this a little bit over the past weeks, that, to become a police officer, you don't need to have a degree. There's no degree requirement. You just got to go to training, do the basic training, pass the test, and boom, you're sworn in and you have a gun in your possession. Might not even know how to use a gun, but you have a gun in your possession. But how come doctors have to go to 6, 8, 10 years of schooling so they could perform surgery on people? Doctors have to get a degree to be in schooling for almost 10 years. They're the ones who they have the lives of these people's hands in the palm of their hand. Same thing with lawyers. When you go to defend somebody that committed a crime, they have to go to school for 6 to 10 years, about on average. But how come police officers, you have the lives of people's hands, lives of people's at your hands. How come they're not required to have a college degree? So it just goes to show you the education system in terms of the qualification that police officers need is messed up, and that we're literally having psychopaths. Hey, guess what? You're a psychopath. Hey, just pass the test, pass the training. Hey, get sworn in. That man could be a flat out racist and just go on killing rampage. And the fact that we have to do all these protesting and marches just to see a police officer just get convicted and charged.
Not even convicted, charged.
Just charged.
Just charged.
Just charged. We have to do months of protest just for a police officer who's caught on tape, caught on camera, red-handed, doing something illegal just for them to get charged. The police officers that shot Jacob Blake in the back 7 times, did they not see what happened the past 3 months of protests with George Floyd? Did they not? No, that goes to show you the true colors of what they think. They don't give a damn. They don't care. They say, well, 3 months of protest, you know what? They'll forget about it. We're just going to go on and do the same thing all over again. And then they're going to, no. This, and again, it's how many more? And this, we have to draw a line in the sand. And I feel like this is the line in the sand that we're drawing. He's like, you know what? enough of this. We protest for a couple months, won't forget about it. No, this time we mean business. And it's like, you know, you always say, well, oh, just to comply. Well, no, how am I going to comply with someone that probably is crazier than me and it has a gun pointed to my head? And if I say something wrong, my life is ended. So if you're a father, you're a black man father, you get killed by police, you leave 3 kids behind and a wife that's now a widow. That's your fault? I mean,
and Jacob Blake had his 2 kids in the car. Which is ridiculous when they say, oh, he's reaching for a knife. Why would he reach for a knife when his kids are in the car? That doesn't even you can't even fathom that making sense.
Well, my thing is this. Think about this. Let's just say for demonstration purposes, he had a gun in the car. So you couldn't wait. We watched you guys allow individuals with AK-47s walk by you.
Literally.
At an age that is
17 years old.
You could tell he's a baby.
Can't even buy alcohol yet. Yeah. Legally buy alcohol.
Yeah. And he's a baby and you let them walk by without questioning, why do you have a gun? What do you need a gun for? Yes. Do states allow you to carry? Yes. But at some point, do you question, why do you have this weapon? Like, to me, there needs to be a big force of police reform. And I get that people are talking about it. I think there's 3 major things that need to happen, right? One, the top thing, or my number 1 priority is when you kill an individual as a police officer, it needs to be managed federally. What happens is, what I mean by that is, 1, they need to eliminate the state from being able to evaluate the police shooting. That's 1. It needs to have a federal committee dedicated to evaluating if that shooting was good or bad. That's 1. And there needs to be strict criteria that allows you to understand what's a good shooting and a bad shooting, right? Timing, right? How quick did you have to shoot? Did you have to shoot him that quick? Could you have waited? Could he have been going for ID? He could have been doing anything. But, timing, between how long you might have shot somebody, basically, the timing I think is key. But the criteria they can decide on, I don't have the perfect answer for that. Also, this federal committee needs to be able to make it a hate crime to kill an individual as a cop. Because if we're paying you to put this badge on and you want to kill any individual, even though black is the majority that you kill, if you kill any individual, they need to look at the premise of it. They also need to evaluate, because you might hate this person. And that those perceptions, those stereotypes have caused you to react like that. That is a hate crime. It needs to be handled like a hate crime. The time should not be the same. So even if these cops are convicted, they shouldn't get 5 years or 10 years. You should get 20 years, 30 years for these type of crimes. Especially because when African Americans kill somebody and you lock us up for violence, we're getting damn near life and we're damn near getting the needle. So that's 1. 2 is any supervisor position in the police force, no matter where it's at, should be a voted position. People should vote for that person to go into that position. They should have to pass the test, and after that, they should be voted in. The reason behind the voting is, if you're not good with the community that you have to protect and serve, why should you be a supervisor of cops that have to go into that community? The community should choose you. The district, however you want to look at it, the electoral district, or even the state, however they want to look at it, should choose that officer to be a sergeant. Should choose that officer definitely to be a captain. Because put it like this: if you have a voting system and an individual, you don't need 1 million people to vote. Let's just say the district is 1 million people in the district. You don't need 1 million people to vote to get you the majority vote. You just need a certain amount of votes that shows, like, look, majority voted for me. Now people know you, right? Also, with that, you have an obligation to those people that voted for you. And I also feel like those positions should be revoted maybe it doesn't have to be every 4 years. It can be a longer term, but the point is they should be revoted and they should be reevaluated yearly, And then another big issue is that the lowest level or entry level police officers need to have credentials that are much higher than they are now. They should have college degrees. And honestly, they should have college degrees that are in stuff like social work. Or in some type of field that shows that you have some type of, comprehension of how to deal with people, or show some type of experience in the work field that shows you know how to deal with people at a level that is needed. because our communities are starving and these cops are taking advantage because they're not being prosecuted, when they're getting away with murder, and the only reason we're doing a better job at tracking this now and being able to stand up for it is because we can see it. Back in the 70s, we wasn't seeing it. 80s, you didn't have people with these cameras recording it. 90s, we weren't recording it like that. So now, as we got into the millennial ages and we got into 2019 to 2017 to 2016, 15, we've been seeing more video footage that covers the behavior that we should not have ever had to experience. Those three things need to happen in police reform. I do agree that demonstrations and protests are just not the end all be all. There needs to be some laws around it. I think at this point we need a independent federal committee that has no important relationship into the president, has no important relationship into the states, and they evaluate all police shootings. And that committee needs to be a diverse committee, not 20 or 30 people that don't look like majority of America. You want 20 or 30 people that look like everybody from America. It should be Asians on there from all type of classes, right? Not just a person with a PhD or a person with an MD or this, that, and the third. It should be a committee of diverse people, from college students, right? That can speak on issues that, older people might not be able to speak, or older people that can speak on issues that college students are not dealing with. And that committee should have an evaluation of these officers, and then it should go to the Supreme Court for the final legality approval and the final legality review or legal review to see if they should prosecute these cops at a federal level, not a state level. The state should have no say-so in police shootings, and we should have a very high amount of money dedicated to this federal committee to allow individuals to function the way they need to function, not just on a minimal basis budget or whatever. The states clearly don't have the capacity, nor does it not have the experience to deal with reprimanding their own police force. And I think that's something that the state also questions, right? The ability to be able to say that this was a bad shooting. It's very hard for a state to admit that those are your people. At the end of the day, a cop is a state's agent. To me, any business is always trying to protect the agent. It takes so much for us to get the state not to protect the agent. It takes protests, us damn near burning down freaking stores, us coming in and wanting to, loot and everything else, for the state to finally say, well, wait, stop now.
Yep.
The cop is no longer valuable to us. We need to think about this now. And that's a problem. That's clearly a problem. We need federal oversight, and we need a federal independent agency that deals with this on a long-term basis, not just a short-term basis, a long-term basis that will allow individuals to be able to, one, get fair justice and a fair review, which I think is key. And I think if we don't allow that to happen on a federal level, you can't leave it up to the states. It's only going to continue on the way that it's continuing. And no offense, it is a crisis at this point. No individual. It is inhumane for, when we look at kids, right? One example is we look at children that are subjected to this, any type of bad behavior from somebody that's supposed to be protecting them, taking care of them. And we're ready to penalize those parents, put them behind bars 20 years for doing something to a kid, whether violence or any other inhumane act. But when cops do this to any individual, whether black, white, or whatever, and they clearly are in the wrong, they have the same position as a parent. I should feel comfortable enough to know that I'm being protected by cops. I should feel comfortable enough to know that they are not going to subject me to any type of behavior that will put me at jeopardy. And I don't think not just, black people definitely can't say it, but I don't think at this point you have white individuals and Asian individuals and Spanish individuals that will feel comfortable around cops. I think everybody has some fear of cops at this point.